High school dropout, I discovered that I was pregnant. I had no choice but to grow up and be an adult.
Incredible.
The church often shunned us, like we were just frowned upon. I think I need to get over myself.
Yeah, wow, Karissa.
Once you put your name forward, then you need to think like you are going to be the president. You know, can I nominate you to be the next president? I'm like, hell no.
Life's really gritty at times, isn't it? We explore where we can access grace in the midst of the struggle.
Welcome to Filthy Hope. Reverend sister.
Reverend brother.
Reverend president.
It's good to see you, my friends.
Welcome to Filthy Hope. This is our attempt to look for hope in the grace spaces of life.
We are just two church people having conversations that often don't happen in church. We're going to keep it real.
Keep it real. I'm John Humphries.
And I'm Reverend Vanessa Williams-Henke.
And this is Reverend Charissa Suli, President of the Assembly, the National Assembly of the Uniting Church in Australia. She's our special guest today.
We are so excited to have you here, Reverend Sister.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
So cool.
Reverend sister, what is a president? Like, you say it, Ness.
Yeah, because I think of Trump, because I think it's on everybody's...
I don't know about that.
Oh, but babe, it's on everybody's lips, isn't it? When they
Yes.
think president, you automatically think of Trump. It's not so great. I'm going to say Trump a few times. Trump, Trump, because it helps with our algorithm, Karissa.
Are you like the boss of the church?
No. And, you know, it's funny. I know that there is an interpretation that people think there's how the president holds a louder power. Absolutely not.
If we were Catholics, are you kind of like our Pope?
I've had that described to me as in terms of trying to explain to someone, so what's your role? Like, what does that look like in the structure? I've heard some people describe it as the Pope. Obviously, the differences between the Pope and the President of the United Church is very different, but to help people begin to understand our structures.
Both wear dresses.
Yeah, we both wear dresses, that's right. I don't have like the beautiful ring though, but that's okay.
All those red slippers that he wears, you know.
So you've got a sort of ambassadorial role
Can
on one
be,
hand
yeah.
for that which is outside the church, and
Yeah.
within the church it's like strategic leadership and trying to bring unity within our diversity. That's the Uniting Church sort of
Exactly.
phrase, to hold the
Hold the
differences
church together, and also reminding the church as a whole who we are, who we are called to be. And it's a real privilege to do that, to be that voice, like a shepherd in some way. You
It
know?
is a shepherd, isn't it?
Yeah.
And you're a really young shepherd.
Yes.
You're a young female
Yes.
Tongan shepherd.
Yes.
How did you get to be president?
Yeah,
I
that is
don't
Like,
like,
is this something
seriously.
that you
it's like
always dreamed about, that one day on your
Absolutely
career
not.
structure that you will be president? of the United
Absolutely
Church?
not. Like, I went to college with Ness. There
Yes.
was no way we ever spoke about the assembly. We may have learned about the structures, right? The different
Sure.
councils in theological college, but it never crossed my mind at all. I think at the time when I went to college with Ness, it was just about how do we get through theological
right.
college?
Yeah.
We feel a call to ordained ministry.
Yeah.
And that was like kind of the vision, or, you know, the purpose of that time.
and cruise into a congregation.
Yeah, that's
How
right.
did you end up as president? Like,
But, you know, when I look back to my journey itself, my life journey, and just the experiences I've had in the church, I do see how much all of those experiences have shaped and formed me to be the president today. But in terms of how did I get there, you know, we do have a process in the Uniting Church where people are nominated, their names are put forward, and then a gathering of the National Assembly, so the national meeting that meets every 3 years. Then they discern, like, a couple of nominations are put forward. Are they, you know, who do they feel is called to be president?
so it's a vote? It's an elected
Yeah, that's right, and people vote. And for me, like the short story of me beginning that journey, I remember I was, you know, sitting in my home office at the time, and I was chaplain to the president, one of the past presidents, and I had received 5 different phone calls at different times in preparation for whatever that assembly was when I was elected. And I remember the first person that called, hey, you know, I think it'd be really great, you know, can I nominate you to be the next president? I was like, hell no. And so, over time, I got another call.
Wow.
2, 3. And by the time I got to the 5th call, I was like, wait, I think I need to get over myself.
Yeah, wow, Karissa.
So I touched into my ego and thought, wait, hold on, maybe God is speaking here. And then the last people who actually spoke to me about it was 2 of our New South Wales ACT Synod ministers. Shout out to Reverend Sukamawai and Pastor Richard LeBroy.
Oh,
They
beautiful.
had nominated me and they had spoken to me. So I had a couple of conversations with them, and then I took a serious kind of discernment process for myself,
Right.
and then decided.
So that's thinking about, do you have the gifts and graces?
Yes.
Do you feel a
Do
sense
I
that
feel-
God might
Yeah.
be calling you that way?
Exactly.
Because it's never easy to work out what God really actually wants. We talk about the will of God
Yes.
sometimes, and we think it's pretty straightforward that you're just like, in the Bible, people get this message, you're going to go and do this. But in reality, it does take, I think you use the word, the discernment, working through.
Working through,
Does
thinking
this make
about
sense?
it.
Do
That's
other
right.
people think that
And I
this
had to
makes
check
sense
my
in myself?
ego as well. Like, oh, am I saying yes because I think it's going to make me look good,
Yeah.
or that, we've never had a young person. Maybe I'll be
Right.
the first person. So I felt like my journey of discernment or reflecting and questioning myself involved, my own ego. But also I went through a process of speaking to my family, my husband and my children, and just asking them, if I was to be elected as the president, what would that look like for our family?
Yeah, wow.
Right?
And would they be
How do you
happy to do
feel?
that?
That's right. Because what I've seen, from past presidents, it looks like they do a lot of travel, or they're away from home. They're
Yes.
representing the church nationally.
Yep.
I'm a public
And
figure.
internationally. Yeah.
Exactly. So
Have you met the Pope?
have I? No, I haven't yet. But it's a goal one day.
Karissa, at any point during this, did you just want to say to your husband and the kids, maybe it's time that we all move back to Tonga and just run away? Did
And just run away,
'cause
like
it's
during the
big.
process?
Yeah, because it's big, babe.
I know, it didn't cross my mind. I guess for me, I kept coming back to, is God really calling me? Is this my vocation?
Yeah.
People talk about vocation. And once I made the decision with the support of my family, we were really prayerful about it.
Yeah.
I think that's one thing for me that I've learned that has helped me be a clergy or a minister.
Yeah.
It comes back to my time in theological college where I always brought my family along for the journey.
Yes.
If they ever said no or they felt uncomfortable, like I had to wrestle with them, and we did do some wrestling. And then once I made the decision, I was like, okay, this is it. I'm putting my name forward. And when I spoke to other past presidents, they said to me, once you put your name forward, then you need to think like you are going to be the president.
Right.
Okay.
To help you move through the process, right?
Wow.
I thought, but what if I don't get it?
Yeah.
What if I'm not called?
Did you ever feel unworthy?
Of course I felt unworthy. And then at that time, I didn't know who the other nominees were.
Right.
Yeah, that's hard,
Right?
isn't it?
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
And we all found out together like the week of or week before the assembly meeting. When I saw the names, I thought, oh my goodness, I've got no hope.
And they're all your friends.
Exactly.
That's the worst part.
Exactly.
Can I ask you, so you become president, but Karissa, your story as a young girl is, if we back all those years to you having your first child, your story really, if we were to zoom in on that, you wouldn't have ever thought that you would end up in this role doing this right now because of your story.
Yeah.
Can you share a little bit about your personal story and struggles and what God did in and through your life through the blessing of your precious daughter?
Yeah.
As you were only a child yourself when you had her.
Yes.
Really.
Yes. Well, when
And thank you for sharing, because
you.
these authentic conversations are the conversations of hope
Yes.
that really make a difference in and through people's lives.
Yes, thank you. Well, I mean, when I think about even just the preparations of becoming the president, the ABC had did a story on me,
Yeah.
right? And part of that was about wanting to know who is Charissa Suli,
Yes.
this next president. And so as much as they interviewed me about, my hopes, my experiences, and I think part of it too was being the first person of colour and the youngest, to be elected into the office. And part of that interview was about sharing my story, you know. And so I'll begin by saying I am a Pacifica woman, you know, who's a daughter of the Blue Pacific, who has Tongan and Māori heritage. I'm also a wife, married to Langi Suli, and I have 4 children, and I'm a grandmother.
Oh, yes, sister.
That's another story. I'm so excited. Anyway, so I'm a grandmother, I have a great granddaughter, and I'm also a carer of my aging mother. So when I look back to, you know, the story of how I became, you know, an adult, before even beginning to think about, you know, becoming a minister, I've always grown up in the church, strong Methodist roots.
In Australia or in Tonga?
In Australia first, and then we moved to New Zealand.
New Zealand.
So I'm a Manly girl, I was born in Manly.
Do you go for Manly?
I do go for Manly, and I'm unashamed about that, although I receive a lot of slack about that. And go the Broncos. Anyway, moving right along. And so born in Manly, and so my parents have always, they migrated to the northern beaches, but they're in New Zealand first, and I'll get to that. But then we moved to New Zealand because my mother's, from the age of 5, because my mother's grandparents were ill, right? So part of that kind of history of growing up on the northern beaches and then going to, moving back to New Zealand, I had a lot of my childhood back in New Zealand. And then when we moved back in 98, I discovered that I was pregnant.
Wow.
Right? So I was already enrolled into high school here at Mackellar High School.
Mackellar High.
So how old were you?
How old was I? I was 16.
Like year 11?
Yeah,
10
16.
or 11?
10.
No, it would have been year 11 because I did year 10.
11, right,
I left
okay.
the high school in
wow.
New Zealand, and was enrolled. Anyway, you know, so I discovered, you know, teenage pregnancy to my husband now, Langi Suli. But even in that journey itself, you know, I felt from that experience, I had no choice but to grow up and be an adult.
Incredible.
Right, from a very young age. But through that experience, though, I'm grateful that my parents continued to love on me and they embraced me, even though particularly in Pacifica cultures, you know, having a baby out of wedlock was really taboo.
Right.
But I love that my parents still showed me and Langi love and embrace, and even Langi's parents, they still walked alongside us through that challenging time. And then we decided to get married.
Unreal.
And then when we got married, we were obviously both living here in Australia at the time. So I dropped out of high school. I couldn't continue.
No.
So high school dropout. And then I've said to others that process of trying to get married wasn't an easy process. We had to go to the courts and I had to have my parents there to give me permission.
Because you were under 18?
Yes, because I was under 18. So I don't know if that still happens
Karissa.
today.
Yeah,
but
it does.
because
Yeah.
does it?
You've got to sign the
Karissa.
form.
Yeah.
That is huge.
Yeah,
That's
When I
right.
marry people,
Yes.
there's a box. If you are under the age of, do you have
Yes,
court
there is
permission?
too on that document
There you
when we
go.
marry people.
There you go.
There is too.
Yes.
Karissa, so Mum and
we've experienced that, you know, of being introduced to the law of the land and how does, you know, a young couple then have to adhere but still have support of family and loved ones.
And what about the church in that space? How did they react to this and the love that you had with your husband and your family and this beautiful new little girl being born, and you're such a young girl?
Yes.
How did the church behave? And are there lessons
Yes,
in
are there
that?
lessons? Yeah, definitely. I think for me, not only the church, but society itself, I feel because at that time, you know, technology and social media wasn't a big thing. So it was actually
Praise
quite
God.
rare.
Yeah.
It was rare, you know, to see young women, you know, be young mums.
Right.
So I actually felt the way society had prejudged my daughter and even my unborn daughter at that time, right? And even to see how the church often shunned us, like we were just frowned upon.
Wow.
Not, you know, just looked down upon because of our situation.
Did that affect your faith or your relationship with God?
It
The
never
church?
affected my faith. I felt like it made my faith stronger, and for Langi and I, we still held on to our faith. So when I think about that experience, for me, what our anchor was God, right? And trusting that the God that we've come to know, because bear in mind, like we both we were both like strong Christians, or just growing Christians, I should say, growing Christians in the
Aren't we
faith. We
all?
went to youth
Aren't we
group,
all?
still are. But I felt like that foundation we had, like even from his own upbringing himself, it held us and anchored us to stay focused and remembering that, that God loves us.
Yeah.
Right? There is hope. There's renewal.
Because it must have been a really stressful time.
Of course it was. Like we were so poor. Like when Lungy and I often talk about, the journey we've taken and how much we've been so resilient in the journey. Like we had no food at times and, living from paycheck to paycheck. And my mother, like she is a godsend. The sacrifices she made, to ensure that there was food on the table and to support my husband who was working as well. And I think with all of that, though, the anchoring was definitely God, our faith in God and knowing who God was, and then the love and support of family. And for us at that time, because Langi's parents live in Tonga, they would support us from afar. And we really just had my mum and my dad at the time, but definitely my mum. Like I want to take my hat off to my mum. Yeah, she's been.
So it would have been a lot easier if the church had lived that sort of love and support that.
I think,
we often talk about being a family. And
what do you mean we often talk about it? It's our mantra that we're going to love everybody and we're so inclusive and come to us because we'll be so kind and we won't judge you.
And yet,
it's actually a lot of BS. Is it
It's
not?
challenging. It's really challenging because I think it depends too on kind of the community the churches kind of develop and nurture. And I think often when culture often feels like it trumps the gospel, but I believe it should be the other way around.
Right.
Everyone comes from different cultures and traditions, but I believe the gospel is the most inclusive culture that we should be embracing and should lead. So, often it felt, we did feel just not welcomed. But it did change, though. There was a shift in how the church then began to embrace us.
The church does grow. We do learn.
Can I add to that? It's interesting. You choose to have your beautiful daughter and get married and have this incredible life and go on to have other children. Like you've got a tribe going on there. My story is such that I have felt shunned and judged because I chose to have an abortion. My parents weren't like your beautiful parents who said, darling, we'll support you and we will give you food and we will nourish you and care for you on this tricky journey. I was encouraged to, don't worry, Ness, we'll go off to the doctor tomorrow and we'll sort out the problem.
Yes.
And off you go, have an abortion and get on with your life.
Yes.
But the shame that I have experienced by just sharing that part of my story has been extraordinary. So I feel like we can't win.
And I'm a real bastard.
Yeah, and you have a
But
story.
bastard being the technical term for somebody born illegitimately.
Yeah.
And I'm adopted, so my mother, I understood, my birth mother, I have two wonderful parents. One sadly died, my father. But my birth parents, from what I can piece together, part of the story is that they were part of that generation where Julia Gillard, as Prime Minister, made an apology because mothers were shipped away from their home. And my birthplace was Crown Street Women's Hospital, and apparently that's where mothers who were not married were sent and almost coerced into giving away their children. So I'm blessed that I have a lovely family, but there's this sense that I'm the problem that was solved in a different way.
Yeah,
but,
100%.
so.
And if you think about the three stories, and we're three ministers.
Yeah.
There's such hope. I know my story is built on such hope out of that actual story that happened because it actually led me to Christ.
Yes.
My
It's part of
abortion
our
led me
identity,
there.
I guess. So you've gone through this amazing story. How did that then lead you into ordained ministry? Because, my personal bias is we're not just ministers, everyone is.
Yes.
But in the Uniting Church, it says everyone has a gift by God. And if you've got a gift, you've got to use it.
Yeah.
And that's called
right.
ministry and service. So we're all ministers, but we're the ordained ones who went to theological college. I'm not wearing my collar today, but you are. So how did that all then, I guess, getting back to leading into being president and what hope do you see in that? You know, how have you seen hope in that story and this amazing opportunity to be a figurehead at the church, influencer? A proper,
influencer.
because
You're
that's
a
how you
proper
describe
one.
the job.
churches.
The role of the president is to influence the church.
She
in a way.
does. You're an influencer, Karissa.
I never thought of it like that.
But you are in the coolest possible way with the Jesus mantle, sister. That is the best.
That's it, right? Yeah. I guess for me, when I think about, the journey to ordained ministry, so Langi and I, once we settled with our family, we then, because of our Methodist roots, we actually joined an independent church first before joining the Uniting Church, because we moved back in 98. And then I reckon it was around...
That an independent Methodist or just a general independent non-denominational?
It was a non-denominational, right? And we actually joined this church when we were back in New Zealand, and that gave us the foundations for learning how to pray, how to fast.
Wow.
I had experiences of, doing evangelism. When I say evangelism, I'm talking about sharing the Bible and sharing my testimony in juvenile centres.
Oh, wow.
Right? I did public speaking as a young person, not even understanding how that would really help for me for today. And so Langi and I both had that experience, in our youth group in New Zealand at the time. And then so we continued to help build it, and it was a church plant here, and we supported that church plant. It's growing. It's well established in New Zealand, but then we felt like we needed something more, I don't know, we just needed a change. And then we went back to the Uniting Church I was baptized in DY. And then in that church, both of Langi and I were lay preachers. We were helping out with the youth group. We were introduced to Tonga National Conference, which is in the National Assembly space. We have 12 migrant communities who have these national gatherings. And then I was but bear in mind at that time, remember I spoke about being a high school dropout. At that time, as a lay person in the church, I'm trying to build my own education, get my education.
Be a mum.
Right, be a mum.
Incredible.
And try support the family and try build a corporate career. And I ended up working in a corporate business at that time, corporate organization. And this connects though to how ordained ministry began for me, because I was working in finance and marketing. That's my background before becoming an ordained minister. Worked there for almost 10 years. And then I was invited to a cross-cultural gathering by the New South Wales Synod at that time, Reverend Salesi Faupula, who is the current moderator of Vic Tas Synod.
Oh,
yeah.
wow.
He invited me, because so I have this gift of singing apparently.
Yeah, you do.
And he invited me to come and sing, and I thought, I've got to take a day off work. A shout out to all the lay people who volunteer their time for the church, that I've got to apply for leave and whatever. Anyway, I said I'd go. And Langi said to me, I'll come with you, And I remember in approaching, I thought, gosh, I was still thinking about my work. It's like, why am I here? I had a bit of an ego moment. And Langi said to me, look, you've got a gift, so just go. And I was asked to lead worship, right? So I went in, cut a long story short, as soon as I walked into the room, I thought, I knew I shouldn't have come.
Oh, wow.
I had a moment, because I just saw all old grey-haired people,
Yep.
right?
Yeah.
But a cultural diverse group of people. And here I was prejudging at that time. And then cut a whole long story short, Lord, forgive me. I've got to lead worship now. Oh. And I led worship. It was beautiful with the people. And then we were invited to stay. And I thought, okay, we'll stay. So this is up in Coleroy, by the way. And so, 2 days of sitting amongst wise people, ministers and leaders and lay people. And for the first time, I saw migrant women leading. I remember Reverend Arian Lee.
Yep.
Yes. I saw a Korean minister. And then I saw Reverend Dr. Seth Carroll at the time. I was like, I've never seen migrant women lead.
Really? Wow.
So bear in mind, I'm still younger here and, getting to see who the Uniting Church is. There are Indigenous people there. That was foreign to me.
Oh.
And then I had wise people, older people wanting to speak to me, actually listening to me and wanting to get to know me. So through that experience, Langi and I did not talk to each other that whole time, right? And then as we got into the car, end of the, kind of the gathering, from Coleroy to DY, those who know, it's like a 10-minute drive.
Yep.
Our drive back home, it was I would describe it as the Emmaus walk. It felt like we were driving for hours and hours as we were both, just sharing our experience. Because I remember clearly when I saw Seth Carroll lead, I'm like, she's ordained. Wow, she's like a professor. She sounds intelligent, amazing.
Ratuman.
Right?
Yes.
Exactly. And I remember sitting there thinking, could do that. I didn't think about ordained
So
ministry,
they were
but I
like
just thought
influences for you.
exactly.
Yeah,
They were
wow.
inspiring women. So as we're driving back home, as I said, it felt like our hearts were literally burning.
Yeah. Oh.
Sharing our experience, you know. And then I said to Lange, I've got to tell you something.
Mm.
And he's like, I already know what you're going to say. And I like stop the car, you know, pull to the side of the road. And then I said to him, and he stops the car, and then I turn to him and I say to him, I need to tell you something. And he's like, I already know what you're going to say.
Yeah.
And we both said at the same time, we looked at each other. I said, I want to become a minister. He said, you should become a minister.
I've got
Word.
goosebumps.
Yeah.
Oh,
Are you a
wow.
minister of the word or a deacon?
Minister of the word.
Excellent.
Wow.
Right?
Wow.
And I've never looked back.
No.
And then we get home. The funny part of this story is that
How old were you, babe?
how old was I? Was I 20?
Oh, that's so
18,
young.
19, 20, maybe 22 or something.
So you had a little girl?
We had the two girls at the
Two
time.
girls already?
Yes. We had
Wow.
two daughters at that time.
Wow.
Right? And like I'm still like, you know, this Holy Spirit moment of just tearing up and just crying and feeling affirmed, like we prayed. Then we get home. I walk out of the car and I'm crying. My mum's like, what happened? You went to a church program? What's going on?
And thank God talk to me again.
Oh, it's so great.
And I've never looked back.
No,
Yeah.
that's great.
I've never looked back. Then I've taken then that journey or the process that we have in the Uniting Church, period of discernment
Yeah.
and all of the other steps. And I honestly have not looked back. And that was like
And here you are,
2008.
president,
I know.
and I suspect that Seth and Arian and those people back then didn't see themselves as making any mark on your life.
No.
Exactly. They have
But-
no idea.
so cool.
They do
Yeah.
now,
Yeah.
if they're watching. So it's amazing.
Yes.
And then you now are president doing that for other people.
Yes.
That,
Yes.
here you are, president, and maybe there are some young women and young men
Yes.
who might also hear God calling them
I hope so.
because they just see that they're like you. I mean, ultimately, we're all like each other.
Yes.
We're just people.
Yes.
But yeah, there's something special that when we get that sense that there is more,
There is so much more, you
And
know.
that it does actually happen, that God works in mysterious ways. Because
Literally.
that's pretty mysterious.
Exactly.
And he uses the filth in the world and in our lives and spins it for gold
Yeah.
and takes those nuggets of learning and just casts our shame away
Yes.
to produce just joy.
Yes.
Yeah. And I think, you know, hearing your story, you know, just it demystifies this idea of president because I hear that you're a real person who's gone through real struggles.
Yeah.
And that makes you actually really better at what you do because
Yeah.
that's what you're saying, that this has all led so that you might be the best person that you can be in this role at
Yeah.
the moment. So as Ness just said, there's all this stuff that we carry with us and sometimes it's shame and guilt or regret, but actually that just makes us real and authentic people rather than we have to pretend to be something. God just uses us.
He uses it all, mate.
Yeah.
There's nothing
have
left.
Have you got a person in the Bible that you like linked to, like a part of their story that you think sort of goes with yours a bit? Or
I
something
think
like
people who know me well, like hands down, will always be the Samaritan woman for me.
Wow.
Right,
Yeah,
Okay.
will always be the Samaritan woman. And I think because during my time in theological college, I did a clinical pastoral education. You might want to help explain
at a
that.
hospital. So that's really training to be a chaplain, a hospital
training,
chaplain,
yes, right.
or a chaplain in another space. But you've got to go and actually practice
Yes,
for a while
right.
in a hospital.
Yes. So that training for me helped me because my supervisor at the time was a Catholic nun, Evelyn Crotty. I was so scared of her.
I just did some. I did some chaplaining, disaster chaplaining with Sister Evelyn. And she's a
Amazing.
legend.
She is
Here I was sharing beers
amazing.
at a place in Tweed Heads with a nun. It was great.
I love Evelyn Crotty.
Yeah,
She
but
helped,
she is formidable.
amazing. She helped transform my life and introduced me to go deeper into, you know, who is a biblical person that I could lean into. And she not introduced me, but helped me unpack, you know, the story of the Samaritan woman.
Yeah. So if you're watching and you don't know the story, Jesus rocks up to this well. It's really hot in the middle of the day, and there's this woman,
Yeah.
and not even part of his tribe, And she's obviously carrying some shame because she's not coming out with all the other women, because you do that in the cool of the day.
Yeah.
Rather it's hot. And then she ends up being the first missionary.
Yeah.
She goes back and talks to the thing.
That's right. Jesus reveals to this unnamed woman,
Yes.
right?
Poor
Yeah.
thing.
Who he is, right? And so for me, when I think about what Evelyn Crotty did for me, helped me to go deeper theologically to understand, what is the kind of security blankets we hold? Because for the Samaritan woman, she was shunned by society, right? And then often would go up to draw water from the well alone.
Yes.
Right. And so
People wouldn't judge her.
that's right.
Yeah.
And I understand that. It's like sometimes you just want to go by yourself and you don't want to deal with all the judgment around you.
It's a bit like going to the gym when not all the pretty young girls are there. I take my fat ass in the middle of the day so the young girls aren't there.
When no one's there.
Yeah, that's right. And so nobody looks at me.
Well, see, with Jesus, you can just like bring your whole self, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. And I guess for me, the Samaritan woman has helped me to see, how much of the way that Jesus had embraced this unnamed woman, right?
Yeah.
Like he crossed cultures and boundaries, he crossed and then to see how they engaged with one another and just the simple connection that Jesus made, right? I think often when we think about faith and spirituality and Jesus and God, we make it so difficult.
Yeah.
But we don't need to. We need to think about how Jesus made connections. He made a simple connection. Give me a drink.
Listen. And then listen.
Right.
And
Exactly.
spoke.
That's right.
And gave, and a message of empowerment.
Exactly.
Which is that actually you've got something that the world needs.
And I think too that one encounter the Samaritan woman had, she then went out and she transformed a whole community.
Yes.
And she told people about this man that told her everything about herself. And she said to them, come, come and see. And she invited them. And so her story for me continues to inspire and just empower me to continue to be real and authentic, but to also not hide away from some of the hopelessness. I know you use the word filth, but for me it'd be like hopelessness. There is hopelessness in this world, but then how do we help people see that hopelessness can actually turn into hope? So I think about all our stories.
Yeah.
Yes.
We've all come to a full circle of seeing hope.
Yep.
And a man who simply tells us to come and follow me.
Yeah, that's
Well,
right.
thank you for sharing your story with us. That's been awesome.
It's been incredible, hasn't it?
It has.
But we're going to come back with Karissa in another episode.
Yes.
And talk more about the church.
So
we're going to see you next time in another episode. Carissa's going to be back to talk more about the church and where she is finding hope. So see you then.
stay hopeful.